So we wanted to give our three guests a chance to reflect on what they heard. Liz Joyner, Joan Blades, and John Steiner are all, they'll say a word about themselves in a minute. I won't introduce them. They'll say the word about themselves, but they're all going to just reflect on what they heard, because as I was saying as the moderator, I was feeling a lot of energy here and a lot of excitement and a lot of possibility in Utah. And I'd love to hear each of them reflect. I'd like to ask each of you to reflect on what you have heard that makes you excited, because each of you have done work with organizations around the country that cross the divide. You with Village Square, you with Living Room Conversations and other organizations, and John Steiner with Bridge Alliance and other organizations you've been involved in your lifetime of transpartisan work. Could you reflect on what you heard that excited you? What was something that you felt, that's something you're going to tell people outside Utah about?
So at the Village Square, we really believe this is a bottom-up affair. So we agree with a lot of the commentary from the last panel. We think that that's a beautiful American sort of refounding story. Isn't that what we're about? Isn't that our through line? Is the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. So we believe it's bottom-up. We believe it's community by community. So both in Florida and in Salt Lake City, with the organization that you have started here, we're all about building relationships across the aisle, very much like what you saw on the panel before. So I'm going to try to, Utah, Salt Lake City specifically, and Utah broadly, has been on our radar screen for a long time. We've been watching, even before we met Jacob, even before the results of this election. Everything we keep learning through the election, through this panel, says the same thing to me, and I'm going to try to craft kind of a love letter from Florida to Utah. Florida is very different than Utah in that we're a very atomized state. So people come to our state from having lived their lives elsewhere, their civic connections are somewhere else, and they come to Florida. And so we're very individualized and atomized, and I should probably offer a broad apology to the whole country for all the Florida things that sometimes result from that. But specifically, from a state that arguably started all this, it feels like we've been in a cycle of kind of equal and opposite reactions since 2000. And of course, with 9/11, that accelerated. And I wanted to offer a counterexample of equal and opposite reactions, and that's the Charleston church shootings. And I think that we saw there something that can happen nearly instantaneously to change the direction of the reactions. And it started with a faith community and with forgiveness that was nearly inexplicable. And all of a sudden, everything changed. And so this is what I want to say from Florida, speaking on behalf of all 20 million of us for a moment, to Utah, is that I think that you have something here that's really special. And I think it's the glue that connects you, and it's in no small part due to the LDS Church, as we saw. I think that you get that, and I think that it's those relationships that are going to change this. And so I believe that there's something really special here, that the country is paying attention to you right now. I mean, people from all across the spectrum were talking about what happened here. And I think something special can happen here that you can share with the rest of us, and we need you badly right now, in changing the equal and opposite reactions.
Thanks, Liz. Joan?
Well, I'm here from Berkeley, California, and I do living room conversations. And the reason I do living room conversations is because living in Berkeley, California, there's this quality that's happened in our country where we've found it's impolite to talk politics, and we've become increasingly homogenous. And we know the science tells us when we talk to people that share our views, that our views become more extreme in whatever direction they're going. And I don't think that's good for us. And the beautiful thing is that when we talk to each other, we find out that these people that we're not talking to are beautiful people that we even love and find huge value in. And my life is so much richer because Jacob is my dear friend. And, and I understand a great deal more because Jacob speaks to me with great honesty, and we have things we totally disagree on, but we still love each other. And that is the piece that, I see being demonstrated here. And I think, honestly, this is a place where faith communities can lead, because loving our neighbor is something that we all get at a gut level, that this is the kind of world we want to live in, the type of community we want to live in. And in California, the Episcopal Diocese of El Camino Real, the bishop and the clergy are using living room conversations, and they're just intimate little conversations, 2 co-hosts with different viewpoints, invite 2 friends each, got some simple ground rules, what you learned in kindergarten, take turns, be respectful, be curious, simple. And then you have a guided conversation that's just about really listening. You had some people sitting here that are talking about listening, and it's the most powerful stuff. It's funny, we have to be reminded sometimes that it's so powerful. But when we care about each other, we hear each other differently, and everything changes. And I'm hoping that with the help of Utah, we can have everything change, because this last election season has just been heartbreaking. And I've seen so many people, and they're not all progressives, that are kind of heartbroken about the way we're treating each other. And nobody wants to do that, and yet we somehow got stuck here. And so the beautiful thing is, when I talk to people and I see people, they don't want to be there either, and I think we can make it happen together.
Hi, everyone. John Steiner. I live in Boulder. I've had a through line for many years about how can we heal across the political divides in this country, and for the last few years, Mark and I have worked together in a more focused way, and in a way, this Citizen Summit is a result of that. First, I want to say the name Jacob has come up several times here, and we're referring to a colleague of ours, Jacob Hess, who is a conservative, lives in Colorado, and has helped us put this event on, and works both with Joan and Liz with Living Room Conversations in the Village Square. I want to start, Mark, you gave this invitation at a feeling level. I realized toward the end of this last panel that the last panel and the previous panel is really the first time since this election, and I think before the election, because a number of us felt, almost whether we gave it language or not, what might and would happen, that my own broken heart is beginning to feel healed across the political divides because of what I have heard today. And I actually wasn't sure that that's what I expected. I was more of, how can we make a difference in the country? How can this panel help us move forward? How can we come together as Americans? But it does start at the personal level, and it starts at the heart level. And whether we've won or lost, this has been a challenging week, and it will be a challenging year, but I feel more prepared listening to the panelists to be able to go forward with more equanimity and more sobriety and more inspiration. And what I'd like to do for my time here is really respond to 3 of the panelists and several things that they said. Wayne Niederhauser, who we heard, the president of the Utah State Senate, said, "We have to reach out to everyone, to all education levels, all races, all genders, get their ideas and bring them into dialogue." And I think what we're representing here is something we've talked about, is that our democracy needs a place to sit down, that we've lost the public square. It's clear that we do not know how and don't talk to each other across political divides, economic divides, social divides, cultural divides, racial divides, gender divides, and geographic divides. And as I've been thinking about this, and Joan, bless her and Living Room Soul, has given us a model on how to do it in our living rooms and how to do it in some public spaces, but it feels to me like we need to reimagine and re-envision several of our institutions in this country to take that leadership role. And one is public libraries. That they have the capacity to invite all members of the table with a new set of principles and guidelines that all Americans would be willing to come and begin to get to know each other. I also think it's the role of our colleges and universities to be educators at a different level, because we need to learn how to bring all sides together. And we need to educate and be educated and listen and learn at a depth in this culture that we have denied for decades. And this election has brought out the divisions. These are not new divisions. What has been invisible is visible. And whether it's libraries or universities or someone else, I think we have to challenge our public institutions to play a more important public role. Natalie was talking about the effectiveness of the business alliance in this community. And what we know from this election and the extraordinary, pornographic division of wealth in this country is that something has to change. And how are small businesses and large businesses going to come to the table with government and civic society to begin to think through what is a role we all play together to make this economy work for everyone? I don't think we know how to do that. I don't think we've given serious consideration. And I'd love that challenge in Utah to see what you all who work with these three legs of our civic stool to do that. And then lastly, what I heard from LDS, beneath respect, is the operationalizing of the Golden Rule. And I think our sense has been, and we've all worked on it in different ways, that our multi-faith communities may be a critical solution in this country of bringing us together again. And that we need to challenge each other and our faith communities, whatever they are, to act on the Golden Rule. And I'll just stop by saying one of the ways that's being done in this country that some of us know about is something called the Charter of Compassion, which you can find online. And in a way, it's an expression of the Golden Rule across all religions and faiths. There are 196 compassionate cities in this country that are beginning to think with us how what we heard today can become rooted and institutionalized locally so that these conversations take place ultimately in every town, in every city, and every civic square in this country. So I'll pause there.
Thank you. So Utah Citizen Summit, this is what it's about, and I guess unlike the panel that preceded us, we all get on planes tomorrow and we fly home. But so in a way, we have the right to kind of be a little bolder and a little bit crazier than the previous panel, and maybe say something to Utah. Do you have any kind of particular suggestion or idea that you'd like to leave behind? Just a wild idea about what Utah could do to even send its message louder. And I'll model it by saying I'd love to see the LDS Church and all the other faiths get together in an ecumenical, interfaith way in Utah and say, here's who we are. You want to come and campaign in our state. Here are our values. Honor our values or you won't get voted for. I'd love to see that in the state of Utah. So anybody else have an idea?
Mark, I know you've been working with this idea a long time. This is a great place also to put it out. Thank you.
Thoughts?
So I'm not sure.
Crazy for the state of Utah.
Yeah, I'm not sure mine is crazy, but I guess I think that we need to all offer ourselves a little bit of forgiveness, because in some ways this was kind of the inevitable result of the changes in the way we communicate with each other. And we're now all finally catching on. Oh, that's what it does. And so we kind of need to say, okay, that was human, and now we need to turn our attention to fixing it. And I guess I wanted to riff a little bit off of what John said, too, that I think is one of the advantages of what you have. I think that what's happened is that the way we communicate with each other has made it so that it's weakened all of our institutions in society, from the very top to the very bottom. So Congress is now divided, left and right. the courts. We saw FBI leaking left and right, all the way down to communities. We like fight surrogate battles for national issues that have nothing at all to do with what we're doing with our neighbors. And so I think you guys still have institutions. Churches, too, again, are divided left and right. So basically, no wonder we got what we got, right? We got this just big old Hatfield and McCoy's feud, left and right. National, no institutions to provide the ballast that keeps us in connection with each other at all layers and levels. And so you guys have such a great place to start with that. So go.
Well, I think I'm saying the same thing in just a different way. I'm a little monomaniacal on this topic, where, you know, my dream is that everybody becomes a leader and starts reaching out with, you know, living room conversations are one tool, but there are all sorts of tools for making connections and having the kind of respectful, heartfelt relationships we want to have. And I heard a little bit of nudging to be competitive about showing the way. We could really use some competitive showing off in the name of being respectful and, you know, wonderful human beings. I want some, you know, just flaunt it in a big way. And, you know, make my blue state feel shamed. It's okay with me. I want to get competitive with you on this stuff. Or, you know, I'll make connections with my kind of Episcopal friends to talk to your LDS, and you name it, I'm there, and please do it. It would make me really happy, and I think the world, the whole country.
A race to the top.
Yes, a race to the top. Let's do this thing.
So Joan, instead of a fist bump, can we do a mic bump? Thank you. That's great. I want to take up the same leadership theme. We need leaders in this country who want to represent the whole, who want to put country before party, where independents can actually run and win and not necessarily be part of a party. And I'd love to see how that could happen in Utah. I mean, we know some of the structural issues around money in politics and open primaries, et cetera. But we're going to need, particularly at the national level, a new kind of leadership, and particularly a millennial leadership that sees the world differently and acts in the world differently. So that's one thing. But what I think Mark and I have learned, and I think many of us have learned in the civic society, is that embracing leadership is not easy, and often you don't get permission to do it. And so I want to really challenge Utah to be the leader in this country on what we've talked about today. It's going to take some money. It's going to take different kind of staff and different institutions. It's going to be a willingness to hire a PR person and show the country what you do well. And as part of that, this is my hobby horse, which people hear me talk about all the time. My belief is that unless we have a transpartisan citizen movement with citizens across the divides, not forming a third party, but forming a new constituency, a third force, that we're going to keep going back and forth. And we're going to keep doing and undoing what one party and the other party does unless we have a new constituency with this new leadership that actually has power, can help elect people, and again, I really say, but not a third party, hold our leaders to the fire of collaboration, and pass legislation that serves the common good. Go Utah.
Thank you, everybody. And I want to just say thank you to John Kessler and Jacob and Camille and Anna and everybody who's helped make the Utah Citizen Summit a reality. It wouldn't be happening without all of you. So thank you for everybody in the room who's worked on it.